So once again, thank you guys for all coming out. This info session tonight is going to cover quite a bit of stuff, everything from our team history to how our team is structured and what plans we have for the fall semester, given everything involving COVID-19 and the new developments within our team. So, starting off, if you didn't know already, we are the go-to student org on campus if you're interested in designing, building, and racing solar-powered electric vehicles. So, the work we do really pushes the cutting edge of hyper-efficient electric vehicles. We are also entirely student-run, so while we do have a faculty advisor who chimes in when there are safety concerns, or also when we ask him for feedback, apart from those two conditions, we really make all of the decisions ourselves. So it's a great way to get some really nice hands-on experience and leadership. So I'll start off going through some of our early team history. The team started back in 2003, or Solar Racing at Georgia Tech started in 2003 with the Good Word. At the time, that was a project under UCEP, which is the University Center for Excellence in Photovoltaics. But unfortunately, they were disbanded when their shop actually was demolished. Then there was no solar racing at Georgia Tech for a few years before it came back in the form of a solar-assisted electric vehicle project built around an Audi TT. So this team was actually working out of their trailer until they won the Buckhead Eco Collection, which is what earned them a spot in our current workspace, the Student Competition Center, or SCC. Then we move into what I call the modern team history. This is when the team was competing in the same competitions that we do now. So this started out with SJ1 Endeavor, also known as Stella, which competed in 5 races before retiring after racing in summer of 2017. You'll notice from the photo that this had a 3-wheel design, which is no longer in regulation. So that's what prompted the move to our second car, SR2 Odyssey. This was the team's first new car in 6 years. This was due to a number of factors, from being a new team, having high member turnover, and just not having all the resources we needed to keep moving at the fastest pace possible. That said, the car did get finished, and it raced, premiering in April of 2018, and it finished top 10 against international teams. Then we moved to our current car, SR3 Endurance. This car was built in just a single year. It raced for the first time in July 2019 at the Formula Sun Grand Prix, and you'll notice it had an all-new monohull design. So compared to the previous 2 cars, which were much wider, much flatter, people call them catamaran designs, this one was a really aerodynamic monohull design that some people say looks like Bullet Bill from Mario. So this is the car that we currently have in our shop and that we're making improvements on before competing it in what was supposed to be this summer, but will now be stretched until next summer. So that's where we are now, but what's a lot more exciting in my opinion is where we're going next. So we're looking into a new class of competition. Instead of the Challenger class, which is the single occupant vehicles we've built before, we're moving into a cruiser class. These are multi-occupant vehicles with a lot of new exciting challenges to solve. So this is something we've never done before, and this really is the biggest design challenge we've ever faced as a team. So we're doing everything from the ground up. Like I said, we don't have any of the MOV experience, so there's a lot of new elements to design. We think this fits with Tech's vision of a sustainable world, and we think it has a little bit more of a direct link to industry, so we think it's going to be a better fit with the Institute and be more valuable to our members. So I mentioned the competitions briefly as I talked about the cars, but we actually compete in 2 different competitions, the Formula Sun Grand Prix and the American Solar Challenge. Starting with the Formula Sun Grand Prix, or FSGP, this is an annual track-style event hosted by the Innovators Educational Foundation. In 2019, FSGP was held at the Circuit of the Americas F1 track in Austin, Texas. So here's a little photo of our team working on the car. It's really cool because you get to be right in the real F1 pits trackside. So it's a really awesome experience being able to be in the pits with a car that you helped build at a world-renowned racetrack. Doing well in FSGP qualifies you for our second competition, the American Solar Challenge. This is a cross-country race held on even years, so this one happens every other year. And as I mentioned, you qualify by performing well in FSGP. In 2018, ASC took us 1,700 miles from Omaha, Nebraska to Bend, Oregon, along the historic Oregon Trail. Here's a shot of SR2 along the way. And then here is a map view of the route it takes. So some of the other student competition center car teams kind of advertise that they have endurance elements to their race. But on those teams, an endurance element is a little 4-hour competition, whereas our endurance event really is a week-long cross-country event traveling thousands of miles. So this is another really cool experience and one that's unique to our team. Now that you know a little bit about the team history and what we compete in, I'm going to talk a little bit about how our team is structured. So you'll notice that we have two main halves, per se, to our team. So we have the operation side of things, and then we have the engineering side. So on the operation side, which is the left side of the screen, everything falls under our team president, Noah Dorfman, who's on the call tonight. Under Noah, we have 3 teams. We have the outreach team, which is myself. So outreach deals a lot with recruiting, social media, and also some public-facing events. We also have race operations. They're kind of the logistics side of the team, so they handle everything that is required when you go to a race, setting up mock races, and it also has a sub-team focusing on strategy. So how can we take the data we're getting from the car and fully optimize its performance? The last team on the operation side is the business team. So if you didn't guess, building a solar car is not cheap. So our wonderful business team is what makes it possible for us. They work with our corporate sponsors to secure funding, materials, and also use of some facilities to really make our car possible. They also manage our budget, and any purchasing decisions go through them. Then on the other side, the right side, we have our engineering side. So everything falls under our chief engineer, who unfortunately can't be here tonight. But under him, there's another split between the mechanical and electrical teams. So we'll talk about these in a little bit more detail in the coming slides, but there are sub-teams 5 under each of those 2 halves. You'll also notice we have 2 safety officers. One of them is our newly appointed COVID safety specialist. So in these times, your safety is our number 1 priority. So we've appointed a special person that can hold anyone, even upper leadership, accountable to make sure that we're making smart, safe decisions that comply with all CDC and Georgia Tech guidelines, and additionally some that we've set for our team because we think they're the right decisions. We also have our shop manager, which handles the more general safety and cleaning procedures within our physical workspace. So, as I mentioned, we have 2 main sides of the engineering team, the first being the mechanical team. So under the mechanical team, we have 5 different sub-teams. We have frame, suspension, aerobody, steering and brakes, and a new sub-team, the design sub-team, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So starting with frame, if you're experienced in things like FEA, statics and def bods, water jetting, welding, this would be a really good fit for you. Or if you have no experience whatsoever, but these skills sound interesting to you, that's also a great fit. So with all of the sub-teams, no experience is required, so these lists give you an idea of the things you'll be working with and the things you can learn. So frame is a really important one because they're really what holds the whole car together, and more importantly, they're the biggest line of defense between our driver and any catastrophes that could happen. So obviously when you have these solar cars out on the public roadways, there's lots of concerns with cars sliding, rolling over, being hit by another car. So making sure you have a really structurally sound frame that can handle all of the different force conditions is really important. We also have our suspension sub-team. This is what connects that frame to the ground. So handling is going to be pretty important, especially for the track style events. But we're not, unlike other SEC teams, super focused on raw performance and handling. We're much more about a controllable driver experience that can really be optimized for efficiency and endurance. So that suspension team will deal once again with FEA, but will also deal more so with things like system dynamics and also use of the Haas CNC machines at the Student Competition Center. Then we have our aero body subteam. This is the whole outer aero shell of the car. So when you look at the car, you're seeing the work of the aero body subteam. Obviously, as the name suggests, aerodynamics are a really important skill set here. We operate on relatively low amounts of power, so having a really low drag coefficient is essential to participate in the races and be competitive. It's also a great way to get into composites and other materials. The whole outer shell is built out of carbon fiber, but along the way we also have a fiberglass layup and then some machining with MDF or foam. So this is a really great one if you're interested in material science and aerodynamics. A couple really cool meshes of different skill sets. Steering and brakes, another important one. Solar car's not going to do too well if you can't control it or stop it. So this is a really big one when it comes to the design side because everything needs to be totally bulletproof. You can't have a steering rack fail when your driver's out on public highways. So it's another one where doing def bods and water jetting at a high level to make sure everything is safe and reliable is really important. This one also has a lot of driver interfacing. You want to make sure everything is comfortable and easily accessible for the drivers. And then finally, we have our design subteam. So this one I think would lend itself best to industrial design majors or people with an interest in industrial design. Whereas the other mechanical subteams do a lot more of the functional elements of the car, design is there to make sure that the users, the drivers and passengers can interact in a way that is meaningful, efficient, and aesthetically pleasing. So one difference going from the Challenger class to the Cruiser class is now the fit and function are a lot more important in the sense that it's important for the users to like it. So there's new elements of scoring where if your car looks better, it will do better. If your car has nice creature comforts like cup holders, a stereo, it will do better. If your car is comfortable, it will do better. So we have this new design subteam to work with the other mechanical subteams and electrical subteams for that matter to make sure that it's a comfortable and cohesive product, the product being the car. Then on the electrical side of things, we also have 5 subteams. Those are the batteries and battery management system, powertrain, auxiliary systems, solar and maximum power point tracking, and telemetry. So going down the list again, batteries and BMS is really in charge of maintaining and developing our high voltage lithium battery packs. So even though it's a solar car, we do still have to have some type of energy storage. You have to be able to account for things like weather patterns. So obviously, if you pass a region of clouds, you're going to have less power generation and you're going to need that stored energy to make sure that you can keep going. Also, if you're driving beyond the reach of what the solar array can replenish, you're going to need to have that stored energy. So they deal a lot with high voltage protection systems, mechanical design to physically build the pack, and then the CAN interface, which is an automotive standard used for communication between systems on a car. Then we have powertrain. This is the subteam that takes all of that stored energy and converts it into forward motion. So they deal with our electric motors and motor controllers, as well as that same CAN interface. This is a really cool one because everything is super optimized for efficiency. So you get some hands-on experience with some really cool specialized hardware that not many clubs could give you an opportunity to work with. Then we have auxiliary systems. They kind of handle all the odds and ends of the car that you wouldn't initially think about, but are obviously very important. So they'll cover things like our brake lights, blinkers, hazards, the horn, and on the MOV, they'll also be handling our infotainment system, which I think is going to be really cool. So we're trying to have a really robust infotainment system that's able to report on all of the statistics about the car, as well as introduce some creature comforts like audio or any other features you would come to expect of a modern car. Then solar and maximum power point tracking. This one might be a little obvious. We're a solar car, so we need someone to deal with the design and construction of our solar array. So this one deals a lot with array design and photovoltaics. But also, you'll notice that MPPT in the title, that's maximum power point tracking. So this is what takes that output from the array and optimizes it before delivering it to the battery pack. So in the past, we've used off-the-shelf options, but right now our team is actually working to develop a custom MPPT, so there's a lot of cool design work going on there. Finally, we have telemetry. So much like your cell phone, our car actually has a SIM card and a data plan. So this is really cool because we're collecting all of the data and statistics about the car in real time and streaming those over both RF and LTE, so that we can analyze that data, use that to feed our simulations and aid in the design process, as well as give drivers real-time feedback about how to best drive the car to squeeze out as much performance and efficiency as we can. One thing I want to mention is that even though this is the electrical team, if you have an interest in more programming and computer science, there are great opportunities for you here. We have a lot of work on the server side for things like our telemetry server, and then most of our custom electrical systems in the car run off microcontrollers. So we have a lot of cool work with embedded systems, low-level firmware development, and then also on telemetry and moving into strategy, we have data simulation, data modeling, and graphical representations of the data we collect. So even if you're more of a CS, software, firmware kind of person, we have some really cool opportunities, and we would love to have you on the team. So just because it's electrical mechanical, don't feel like those are hard boundaries. We really have work for anyone of any interest, any major. Then on the operations side, we have the race operations team, and within it, the strategy sub-team. So this team gets the car where it needs to be and makes sure the team is there with it. So they handle all of our logistics, how do we get to the race, as well as hosting events like mock races. So these are when we bring the cars out to test them as if it was a cross-country or a track-style event to find any problems before we get to the race. They also help maintain our shop space and trailer, and do all of the important things like coordinating our race routes, timing, strategy. And then within that strategy sub-team, that's really where we take all of the data we collect, develop some models and simulations to really optimize the performance. So on the screen here, you can see a photo from a mock race, as well as a plot of ideal vehicle speed around the track. So that's the track of COTA, so you can see where we think it's most efficient for the drivers to be going fast versus slow. So we're able to model that and communicate that to them in real time to get all the performance we can. This is a photo of the strategy people trackside at FSGP. So they're analyzing all that data and sending it over the radio to the driver. Then we have our business team. As I mentioned, building a solar car isn't cheap. So the people on our business team handle our budgeting and finances. This is often at a six-figure kind of level, so it's no small student org budget. This is some pretty substantial dollar amounts we're talking about here. There are direct contact with any corporate sponsors of the team, and also SGA. So with those corporate sponsors, that could be anything from just a normal monetary donation, that could be an in-kind donation of materials, or a donation of access to a facility. So that could be access to test at a racetrack, that could be working with Delta to use their autoclave for our aerobody, all kinds of different things. So there's a lot of cool sponsor relations that you can get from our business team. They're also responsible for purchasing and shipping. When you're working with international companies, this can be a challenge, and it's really great experience to get so early. And then we have our outreach team. So that is myself right now. Outreach represents the team both at public-facing events as well as within the Institute. We also handle things like recruiting. So obviously making these slides, hosting this info session, and all the posts you've seen on social media fall under outreach. We also have a lot of public-facing events, like the Atlanta International Auto Show. We bring our car out there to show it off to the public, as well as the Concours d'Elegance and Ray Day. So we really like bringing the cars out to show the general public. If you're not a student at Georgia Tech or a similar university, hyper-efficient vehicles and solar vehicles aren't something you get too much exposure to. So we really like showing the public what we're doing, and also showing it to the younger folk, the next generation, get them inspired and passionate about STEM by showing them what's out there. So how do we work? First of all, we want to emphasize that no prior experience is required whatsoever. All majors are welcome, and that said, you really don't even have to work within your major. So if you were, say, a business major, but you really wanted to get some hands-on mechanical skills, we would be more than happy for you to join one of our mechanical sub-teams and really develop those skills. So you're not bound by your major. Whatever you're interested in, we'll give you the opportunity to explore that space. Most people do have a home sub-team, so we try to place you into a sub-team that we think will best match your interests and the work you want to do. But that being said, almost everybody works across the boundaries at some point, so you may be working on a project that's primarily covered by another sub-team, but that home sub-team kind of gives you a core group of people to work with, an easy access to the leadership structure, and also just some general projects through it. But you're definitely not bound by a sub-team. If you ever feel like you have the wrong fit, you're more than welcome to swap. And oftentimes members do, and that's a great way to really narrow in on what you're passionate about. We're also big at encouraging people to work with one of those operations team, even if you're mainly there as an engineer. So it would be great for someone who, say, is on the battery sub-team to also work with business. We think that having some cross-collaboration between the operations and engineering sides is really influential both for the team, but also for your own personal development. You're also welcome to join only on the operations side. So if you're not super interested in all of the engineering, but you really want to do race operations and business, that's awesome. So once again, we really want this to be a tailored opportunity for you, so you can make whatever you want out of the opportunity. So when do we work? This question has been a little bit more difficult because of COVID. In typical semesters, we usually have a couple shop nights in a week. Those are usually Tuesday, Thursday, and then one of the weekend days. But obviously with COVID-19, we have some modified shop procedures to make sure that we're keeping ourselves and everyone in the SCC safe. So I have a little graphic on screen. This is showing when we're allowed to be in the physical space. But that being said, all of our sub-teams are really working to push remote and online work. So we are fully accommodating. If you are entirely remote, you can still be involved this semester. So our general meetings are held virtually every other Thursday. These are when we bring the whole team together to talk about the work we've done in the past 2 weeks and kind of set some goals for the next 2-week sprint. Apart from that, when you meet is really going to be determined this semester by what sub-team you're a part of. So sub-teams will usually have 1 or 2 virtual meetings every week, and whatever project you're in will also cover when you work. So it's going to be very flexible this semester, and we never have, and we don't plan to have any hard cutoffs. We understand that you guys are people first and students first, so if you ever have a really busy week and can't really participate in solar that week, that's totally understandable. We don't want this to be a stressor for you. We want this to be a really positive experience. So give as much time as you can. But as I said, there aren't any hard cutoffs. The more you put in, the more you'll get. And then one more thing is all work is going to begin remotely, and you'll be explicitly told if and when you can take on involvement physically in the shop. This is just in place to help keep everyone safe and make sure we know who's going into the shop and why. So where do we work? Usually we work in person at the Student Competition Center, or the SCC. This is a 22,000 square foot facility slightly off campus. It's at 14th and Hemphill. And this is a space we share with the other 6 SCC teams. those being motorsports, off-road, high-tech, eco-car, rec racing, and robo-jackets. So this is where our physical shop space and office are located. There are a couple different ways to get here. In a traditional semester, you can take the green route. So the GT bus will bring you right here. This is actually where they keep the buses at night. And then otherwise, it's a pretty close walk. So you can easily get there, especially if you're coming from West Campus. It's a very, very short walk. But when a global pandemic isn't hitting all of us, we usually have carpooling on all shop nights. So if you're coming from East Campus, where it's a bit more of a walk, or if the weather's poor, there's almost always rides you can get. We just want to be a little more careful, obviously, with the pandemic, to not have too many people clustered into a car. So this is just a quick map showing where the SCC is located. This purple pin down in the bottom right corner is on the MRDC. And then this orange patch in the middle is where the new police station is located. So those are a couple markers. It's also right next to IKEA, if that helps you. So now I'll talk a little bit about our plans for working safely under COVID-19. So as I mentioned earlier, your safety is our #1 priority. So we've appointed a COVID safety specialist, as I mentioned, to oversee our operations and keep everyone accountable. So even people at the executive leadership level are all accountable to act appropriately. So we're fully accommodating remote and online work, which will actually fit in well with where our team is right now. With the MOV, we have a lot of design-heavy work, so that's something that can be done remotely, and that should take up our fall semester pretty well. We also do have a system in place to get essential members into shop physically if they need to work on the car. And we're also trying to rotate in some non-essential members. We recognize that physically being in the space with the car is a really formative experience for new members. So if there is a way where we can safely get you into work, we'll explore doing that. But that's totally dependent on the COVID situation not worsening, and also given that there are vacancies not occupied by people who do really have a need to be there. So as I mentioned, some teams will be working online and setting up projects, really keeping remoteness in mind. So what do you get out of it? First of all, you'll get some great friends. So most of my best friends are people I met or work with through Solar. Noah, who's in the call, our team president, he's my roommate. So really, compared to a lot of the other orgs and classes I'm in, the friends I've met through Solar are really some of the best I have. They're really interesting people from a variety of backgrounds, and they're more than willing to share all of their experiences with you. So a lot of our really cool upperclassmen will share lots about their different internships, co-ops, classes. So it's a really great environment to be a part of. It's a great support network if you need close people to go to, and it's also just some really good times. So I really hope you guys do choose to join our team and stick around until things are a little bit more normal, because we're a really fun group of people, and I think a lot of you would enjoy what we have to offer. You'll also get some great real-world experience with cutting-edge technology. So like I mentioned, it's not every day you get to work on handcrafted, hyper-efficient motors from Australia that cost tens of thousands of dollars, but that's something you can work on here. Also, jobs. Jobs is a huge one. Any corporate sponsors that sponsor any SCC team at a certain level get access to recruit across all of the teams. So it's not uncommon for companies like GM to come in, bring some of their new cars, bring pizza, and just hang out and take resumes on the spot. I just finished up an internship with Milwaukee Tool, who's one of the sponsors you see listed up here. I never applied or even interviewed. The recruiter who comes to the SCC knew me from the involvement with GT Solar Racing and cold called me with an offer. So they really value the work that we do here at GT Solar Racing, and that's reflected in the recruiting process. So they're dying to get our members, and that's something that would pass on to you. I have some logos of a couple different companies that our members have accepted full-time offers with or did internships or co-ops with. So if you're interested about these companies, you can ask around and talk to our members about their experiences. One more thing is I think we're in a really cool position among student orgs in kind of how we apply to the world as it is right now. So solar and electric vehicles are obviously a really big topic right now, both from the side of Green Deal and environmental policy, as well as having skills that are directly transferable to solar companies and all of the new EV companies. So, your Teslas, your Rivians. So the work we do here directly lends itself to those companies in that field. So this is a really cool way to get that experience early. So what happens next? So obviously you're at our final info session tonight. If you guys do choose to go along with our team, you think, wow, this is awesome, I want to be a part of this, you'll want to fill out our team application. So that's linked here at the bottom of the screen. That's going to be due on the 3rd. So that's this Thursday. By filling out that application, you're saying that you do want to join our team. We'll take a look at your application and match you up with the sub-team that we think would be best for you. So then on the 5th, so this weekend, we'll have our onboarding. We'll get you set up on Slack, which is where we cover all of our communications. That's where we do a lot of those type of communications. And then also on ClickUp, that's our task management solution. So that's where we will show you some of the different projects we're working on that has all of our assignments and deliverables. So you'll receive your sub-team assignment on that date and get connected with that sub-team and figure out what your next steps are from there. We treat recruiting as almost an internship. So you'll have about a month where you work with us on a real project. So you'll get right in with your sub-team and either be working on SR3 or working more likely on the design for the new MOV. And then at the end of your internship, that's where we'll kind of talk to you about your involvement, see how you like the team. And then 2 days later, that's when we release our team decisions and make you a full member of the team. So at this point, at the end of the internship, you do have to pay dues. Given that we are a registered student org, the funding we get is determined by our roster count. Partially determined anyways, and to make sure that people don't fill their rosters with a ton of fake members, they require that we collect dues. So we collect the minimum amount, which is $50 per semester. We would charge lower if we could, but given that we do have to charge it, we try to subsidize it and make it hurt a little bit less. So like I mentioned, you get the great opportunities and exposure to jobs. That might be worth it in itself. We also give you a free t-shirt. We know that's a little silly, like that's not going to make up $50 a semester, but we hope it helps. And then also when it comes to the competitions, subsidizing the travel costs and housing costs there really pays for itself. So if you guys are interested, please fill out that team application. Once again, please do that by the 3rd. If you have any questions after this session, feel free to email us, info@gtsolar.org. But otherwise, I'm going to open it up to the floor for questions. I see some have already been popping up in the chat. So we can quick run through those and then...
we also have a bunch of other members.
I was just going to segue to that. So I see a lot of our members have shown up. So I think I'll just call them out and have them give a quick little 15-second spiel about who they are and what they do. So Matthew, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew. I am in my first semester of grad school. Just graduated in computer engineering back in May. I work primarily on the batteries and BMS sub-team on electrical. Actually, fun fact, I did my senior design project with a couple of other former members. We worked on a custom battery management system.
Awesome. Then we have Kat Schutz.
Okay, I hope you guys can hear me. I'm Kat. I'm a third year. I was on telemetry the past few years, but with ID starting up, I'm actually a minor in ID. So I'm taking over and I'm heading it up, hoping to find someone in ID that can lead it up after I'm gone. I'm also actually a co-op student, so I'll be gone next semester for GM. That's all, AJ.
Awesome. Then we can go to Tara.
Yeah, hey, I'm Tara. I'm a ME master student. Just started my first semester. My master's just started doing my master's this semester. Just finished my undergrad last year. So you guys have questions about like ME, ask me. Did I say I'm mech lead? I'm mech lead. So if you have any questions about like mechanical, ask me. So yeah, nice to meet you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Tara. Then we have Harry.
Hi, my name is Harry. I'm the Ox team lead of GT Soul Racing. I'm a junior. Major is computer engineering. So if you have questions about like courses, how to take course, and what course to choose, you can ask me. Um, and hope you guys have a good experience with GTSR.
Awesome. Thank you. Then we have Samantha.
Hi, I'm Samantha. I'm a fifth year chemistry and double E major. I started off Aux Systems, recently segued to solar, and I'm the COVID safety specialist for this year. So my job is to make sure that y'all are safe in shop if you choose to join.
Awesome. Then we have Isaac.
Yep. Hi, I'm Isaac, a fourth year computer science major. I'm the electrical team lead currently. Also in the past been on aux systems and batteries, so yeah.
Awesome. Then we have Rashil.
I'm third year mechanical and I am frame lead. So we work on the chassis of the car. So if you have questions about that, feel free to ask me.
Awesome. I'm looking at the people tab, and we have quite a few more.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I just noticed how many there are. So I think for everyone who I didn't have introduce themselves, just drop a little bio in the chat so that we can try to focus our time together on any questions that might be pending. One more note I wanted to make is about those dues again. So I mentioned that it is $50 a semester in dues, but if that is really a sticking point for you, if it would be hard for you to be able to pay that, just let us know. If you talk to our upper leadership, we don't want that money to be the reason that you choose not to join. So if you are in a tricky situation like that, we can make something work. So I see our first question, which is, when are you guys starting to build the 4-people car? So with that, we're starting our whole design push now, but I think Tara would be a good person to talk about the timeline a little bit more.
Yeah, so right now we're just starting design for the 4-person car. So we're planning to have like a general design done by the end of this year, and then design for manufacture started and finished like next semester. So next semester we'll definitely start like prototyping. I think hopefully actually like starting to build the aero body and all the actual components by like the end of next semester, beginning of next year.
Awesome.
Yeah. But if you're looking for hands-on work, we're also like working on our current car, so there's lots to do.
Awesome. Just for curiosity, do you have any Latino members? Noah, do you have an answer for that one?
Let me, I can check the actual, we have some demographics numbers from, actually, I don't think we ask about that. I'm not sure off the top of my head specifically, but we are super excited to be a diverse team. We have people, like AJ mentioned, from all majors, all backgrounds, all types of different people. I mean, you can even see from the people in this call, from our members on the team, and we really try and push inclusivity on the team and in the SEC broadly.
Awesome. I'm going to read a couple previous questions we had in the chat, just so they're retained in the recording. This will be recorded and emailed out if you guys want to refer back to it. So how many people are in the whole team? We usually float around 70 people, depending on people graduating and how many people come in on recruiting cycles. Then just a quick discussion of comparisons between sizes of the other SCC teams. RoboJackets is the largest with hundreds of members because they themselves are 5 different teams, all fit into one. But most of the other teams are around 50 to 100 as well. High Tech, I do know, is pretty big. I think they probably float around 100 members from my conversations with them. Someone asked if we're using Microsoft Teams for new members. I saw Noah answer that one. We communicate primarily on Slack, so we have channels set up for the team-wide communications all the way down to sub-teams. And we also have some social channels as well. Then additionally, we have ClickUp, which we use for all of our task management and project tracking. Someone asked, I'm currently doing online class off campus. Will that be a problem for joining? That's absolutely not a problem. I think that might have been Chris Song. That is absolutely not a problem. Many members, like myself and Noah, our team president, will be off campus. So given that we have so much online work and we're actively working to accommodate it, that shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. And then I think that brings us current on those questions. So let's keep rolling some more. We have plenty of people in here, so feel free to drop those questions in the chat or unmute your mic and speak up. There are no dumb or silly questions. Who drives the actual car on race day? So that's a great question. We actually train multiple people to drive the cars. And at a given race, there will be a couple drivers that we swap out to make sure that nobody's driving for too long. So anybody is eligible to, so long as they complete all of the training and also physically fit in the car. That should be much less of a problem for the new MOV. But in the past with the Challenger class vehicles, if you're a little too tall, it can be pretty tough or impossible to fit. But if you're interested in driving, Noah can talk a little bit quickly about the process, since he was formerly race ops.
Yeah, I was just actually going to say we have like 3 drivers in here, if they want to talk about their experience, but I can cover the process first. I mean, like AJ said, we just have a few like tests basically that you have to pass. Well, we're actually refining the driver training system like now, but pretty much you just pass the dynamics tests that you have to do at the race. We try and have you able to do those things in the car before we get to the race, and then once you get to the race, you're already prepared and you know what you have to do. But if Tara or Isaac or Matthew wanna, I think those are the people who are drivers. If one of you guys wants to.
Yeah. At the most recent competition, we went to. I was one of the drivers. Yeah, like as people have said, like as far as requirements, like we have a training to make sure that like that you are able to, if you are driving the solar car, you can drive it safely and have control of the vehicle if something were to go wrong. But otherwise, the main requirements are just are you interested? Can you go to the competition? And with the Challenger class cars, can you fit?
Yeah, thank you, Isaac. Thanks for explaining that. We also had Samantha mention that there are 3 days of racing at the actual track race, and then at ASC, the long endurance race, it's an entire week of racing. So we definitely need drivers. And then I also saw Ben Terry, who's the batteries lead. He mentioned that for the MOV, we'll also need passengers, that's definitely true.
For passengers, I imagine the lighter, the better. But apart from that, once again, I don't think we'll really be excluding anyone from being eligible. That's not really how we roll. Eric asked a question about the application itself, saying in a few sentences, please describe your experience relevant to blank. Does this include coursework or not? Feel free to draw on your coursework, anything you might have done in high school, personal projects. When it comes to the application, really don't overthink any of the questions. We're just trying to get a better idea of you and how you'll fit best into our team. So really include or exclude whatever you would like. There's plenty of people. Okay, here we go. When you were first joining Solar Racing, what made you pick Solar Racing instead of other SCC teams? So I think this will be a good one to bounce around to a couple different people and get their perspectives. For me, it was really the focus on renewable energy and how well I thought that would apply to some of my interests for after graduation. So really that element of being solar powered is what drove me. So other team members, feel free to chime in with what motivated you to join.
Yeah, as like before I forget, a somewhat tongue-in-cheek thing that I guess someone said to me when I was a recruit that I guess kind of just sets Solar Racing apart in some ways from a lot of other SCC teams is like. All the other SCC teams, they cheat. They take electricity or energy from the grid. They don't make it themselves. While it's like kind of a, I guess it's kind of like a, kind of just silly tongue-in-cheek thing. It like no other team has to like build a car that drives 1,800 miles across the country, and like that, and like in that respect, like a lot of our challenges are kind of unique.
I have kind of a different answer to this question. Everyone so far has pretty much talked about how it's the type of car and the electronics, and that's all really cool. But the people on the team, you got to understand, are also really cool. And even as like a new recruit, it doesn't matter what year you are. I joined when I was a freshman and I knew pretty much nothing. They give you a lot of responsibility and they expect you to, I don't know, as long as you work hard and you're part of the team and you're interested in the team, you're definitely welcome here. You're welcome here even if you're not, but you get as much as you put into the team out of the team. Or however you say that sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say for myself, the biggest motivator to join Solar was jointly that we're more of a road rambler contest. Like, we don't really do track as much as we do road rambler, or really for that matter, like, we don't stick to 100% track races like GTMS or High Tech or really most other of the car teams. So that's what makes this like really interesting to me.
I think that's a really cool distinction Samantha just pulled on, in that, well, a lot of the teams are just focused on like raw like performance and handling. Ours is really interesting as an optimization challenge, really pushing everything to the limits, working on low power, and optimizing for efficiency and endurance. So it's a really cool engineering challenge. I see Ben's answer in the chat. I'll just quick read it out loud to preserve it for the recording as well. So Ben says that he was a good bit into the high-tech recruiting pathway, but appreciated how much ownership of his intro project he had at Solar, so he fully committed there. He also said that, like Isaac said, the amount and type of engineering challenges was cooler with Solar in his opinion, and as Kat said, the team culture was a really great draw for him. Awesome. Hopefully those perspectives helped answer that question pretty fully. So we still have a good amount of people in here. Do we have any other questions? Once again, there are no silly questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat or speak up if you have them. How are dues paid? I'll defer that one to Mr. Noah Dorfman.
So usually we have a really strict no electronic payment method policy, but here we are in the middle of a pandemic, so they'll be paid through my Venmo most likely, unfortunately, but it's okay. We'll deal with it.
Yeah, it's traditionally cash or check, but given that we're trying to avoid those in-person interactions, we'll have to make some exceptions this time around. All right, it looks like the questions are starting to slow down, and we're also coming up on the hour, so I think we'll formally call the session off here. Thank you guys all so much for coming out. We really appreciate your time, and we hope that you choose to go forward with Solar Racing. So if this is something you want to pursue, make sure you get that link down, the tinyurl.com/GTSR2020 application. I'll also be sending the slides and a recording out as an email tonight to all of you, so you should have it there. But I will let you guys all go. I know you all have busy lives, and we don't want to eat up too much of that. If you do want to hang around and ask any more questions, please do so. We'll keep the members on a little bit, and then I'll also be running through the slides a little bit again for people who came late. So if you guys don't have any more questions, feel free to hop off. Otherwise, we'd love to chat a little bit more.